All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college NFL football. It is draft season. Fresh and I, we are breaking down the college prospects going into this year's NFL draft, getting you ready for the draft season. A lot of us, if you're Browns fan, it's your favorite time of year. Packers fans, you got better things and bigger fish to fry that you look forward to. I'm joined by my co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
Pat's doing great. We talk about quarterbacks and maybe it's not the strongest class, but when you get the running backs, receivers, and tight ends, there's a lot more depth. I'm not going to say it's the greatest draft class of all time on the offensive side of the ball, but there is more depth in these position groups. And as we know, you need to have depth at receiver, depth at running back, especially. And the tight end game in the NFL has allowed to be different guys fit different places. So these position groups, there's going to be a lot of players taken or either undrafted free agents, but there's going to be a lot of these guys making impacts on Sunday, and just really how they fit, the correct scheme and the team as we go forward.
Yeah. First, let me ask you a question. Let's put on your GM hat here for a second. And in this day and age, I think this is something we've heard probably for the last, 10 years almost, it feels like, that we've really devalued the NFL running back position here. I still think it's heavy in the college game, like you still need to run the football, but in the NFL game, it's really changed. If you're looking for a first round running back, because again, I think it's stupid for them to say like, oh, you should never draft a running back in the first round. But if you're looking for a first round running back, what are some of the traits you're looking for out of one of those players?
Well, you want explosiveness, you want the pure athlete, but you need someone who can do it all. And that's one thing where we look at college football. A lot of these running backs are terrible at pass pro. They're the number one bell cow, and they're not having to, or without a shotgun, they're not really having to pick up much, or they're just getting it. That is the biggest transition for any running back. And you see like the good ones, either they're just so dang good that they can just run the ball, like McCaffrey, Saquon, on Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor. There are running backs out there who are just they're bell cows. But then you kind of filter from the rest of it. You need guys who are going to be able to mix and match it and get things done. And that transition from college, you're going to probably have to come in and play special teams. You're not going to stud number one anymore. And you're going to have to come in probably on third down and pick up, and help protect the quarterback. So having to be showing you can be well-rounded, return kicks, do a lot of different things is what is going to make you successful. And it makes it very, very tough as an elite running back to come in and get drafted high and have the entire weight of a franchise on your shoulders. And that's probably, in the way the tread on the tires is another big factor. And that's where you look at college right now, where back in the day, some guy be a 3-year starter, gets the ball hopefully 75% of the time. Part of it's ego checks in the running backs are like, hey, we need a room. We need 5 guys who can come out there and rotate. You're not, we're doing it, number one, to save your tread on your tires for the NFL and to keep you healthy. But it's just things happen. Game flow, guys get dinged up. You have to be all ready to play. So if you're coming into the NFL now, you have to know you're going to have to hustle in camp. You're going to have to be ready to go. And the games, it's faster and it requires a little bit more physicality, not just between the tackles, downhill running.
All right, so let's talk about the top running back in this draft then here. Jeremiah Love, consensus top running back. All of the scouts have him as the number one running back rated in there. I would say he's in that is a teen pick for me. Anywhere from about 13 onward is pretty much where I would expect him to go. I don't know. Do you see Jeremiah Love breaking the top 10?
I could see him being a Saint. I could see him being a Saint or a Chief.
You do?
I mean, you look at Kamara's, he is well past his prime.
Right.
And they've been looking for that that future number one back. He would fit that system, I think, pretty appropriately. But at 9, the Saints need so many players. He might be the most sure bet because we've seen the Saints, their defenses, they played better last year, but there's still a lot of holes. Chris Olave is a great number one, but they don't really have number 2. But are you willing to take one of these receivers at number 9 overall, as opposed to leaving that running back spot empty? So I think he has a chance of being at 9 overall. The Chiefs, they have a lot of questions. We've seen Pacheco be hurt ever since they won the Super Bowl a couple of years back, and they haven't really been able to find that number 2 behind him, and they've got to get more affordable across the board. I mean, you kind of think drafting a running back in the first round at 10th overall, as opposed to signing a free agent who you don't know going to get from, maybe it's worth it because you give some guys some longevity with Patrick Mahomes down the road. So somewhere in that Chiefs Saints range, I think in that top part of the first round fits. Now, if the Saints drop down and trade down, I could also see that happening, but I think the Saints at 9 is a good fit.
Yeah, I'm intrigued for you with I can understand the Saints spot at number 8 there, but the Chiefs at 9, like, okay, let's say you're the GM of the Chiefs, and I know we're gonna get into the wide receivers here in a little bit, but you're staring at Carnell Tate, another weapon for Mahomes, and Jeremiah Love, the running back. You're having that conversation in the draft room. You don't know yet
I'm
if you're
taking
gonna
I'm taking Love because you've
you're
already
taking
invested
Love.
in downgraded. You have the Rasheed Rice probably going to get, who knows if he's going to be back in jail, more suspended or whatnot.
Mhm.
But you've invested
You might
Xavier
lose
Worthy money.
Kelsey.
I don't think Kelsey's going to come back. He's going to
Mhm.
try to go out on top. But you've invested some draft picks in the players at receiver position, and right now your running backs have been pretty banged up. Um, and honestly, I have my questions about Carnell Tate, and we'll dive into that a little bit because he's getting the number 2 coverage the entire time. Yes, he's from Ohio State. He hasn't had to really run the route tree. He's had everybody else paying attention to the other side of the field, the Jeremiah Smith. And it's been kind of the 2 or 3 his entire career there. Now, granted, he's an Ohio State guy. He's been, developed by Brian Hartline. There's going to be tons of skills, but it it does kind of he's always been that 2 or 3 his entire time there. Never actually had his chance to be the number 1 guy and had that moment. So we'll see how he does in the draft in the combine here for the draft, which we're recording here on Tuesday of combine week. But there are some questions I do have of him being that number 1 receiver overall because I haven't seen him have to be the number 1 for Ohio State.
Yeah, I really like Jeremiah Love at 14 to Baltimore if they're going to if they're going to not address their offensive line. Because again, I think the most likely pick for the Ravens is an offensive lineman pick there, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them starting to get younger and replace Derrick Henry on that one. Because again, Derrick Henry,
At
while
some point,
at some point is got to drop off. It happens to every single running back. The dude I get is built differently. He is built like a brick house and is really tough to take down. And his game isn't a speed game, it's a more physical game on that one. So I could see Baltimore at 14. I thought Love would go good there. I also thought maybe you know, Minnesota could make sense as well. They could use a running game, but again, also that defense does need a little bit of help in Minnesota. So I don't know because here's the other reason with Minnesota for me that made a lot of sense for Love. If Love drops all the way down to 18, I think I'm running the pick up to the podium. Or if I'm a really running back needy team, I might be picking up the phone call and seeing if I can move up in that regard. But if I'm Minnesota, and let's say like I'm gonna finally admit to myself that the JJ McCarthy experiment has gone bust. I'm gonna stock like a bunch of young skill players and offensive linemen that next year when the quarterback class is a little bit better, like you get Arch Manning coming out, you get Julian Sane, you get Lenore Sellers, you get some of those other guys that we look and say, hey, you know what? There's some quality coming up, and we think a little bit higher of that group that you can put in a guy and plug and play them because he then has Jordan Addison, he has Justin Jefferson, he has Jeremiah Love, he has some more skilled positions around him where those guys aren't rookies. They're able to kind of blend in there and take care of a rookie quarterback. I like Minnesota at 18. I just don't think Jeremiah Love lasts to 18.
and he is a special talent.
He
Very,
is.
very good running back. You look at the rest of the class, though. It's Darian Price, also from Notre Dame, Jonah
He's
Coleman,
good.
Nicholas Singleton, Kaytron Allen, Emmett Johnson, Le'Veon Moss. The list goes on. All these guys are very similar, and it's gonna be a lot of fit. None of those. I don't think the rest of those guys are all first rounders, so it's gonna be second, third, fourths. But there is depth at the position where you get guys who are going to be able to step in and make plays. The biggest question for all of them is outside of Jeremiah Love, who would be probably a day 1 starter wherever he goes, the rest of those guys, you're going to have to then go back to pretending playing freshman football in high school or JV, where you are
Hmm.
now doing special teams. Like, how does that transition? You're not just the guy in the backfield getting the touches 24/7, and that it probably has to mess with some guys, And maybe we should have when we had our interview with Darion Connell, like maybe we could have asked him, like, hey, when you saw rookies show up who were
Hmm.
starters in college and showed up on the field when you were a veteran, could you see it was an adjustment for them? Like, I was the number 1 guy, so now I'm a third string or second string. I got to play special teams. They haven't seen special teams practice in 3 years, except if they were returning the kick and not covering it. So it's a running back. You're gonna have to make the team in multiple ways, not just being a dude who can run the ball between the tackles.
Yeah. Hey, you brought up a great point here, Fred. Starting with Price, Coleman, Singleton, Allen, all of those guys, Johnson, you said all of them kind of fall within the same realm there. out of the guys you named, who do you like the best out of that group? Let's say you're sitting first overall, you need a running back or you need a backup running back, and you're sitting with the third pick in the third round there, and all those guys are still on the board in the third. Who's the guy you go, all right, I'm getting great value at this position, and he could be a guy I plug in and be a starter, maybe not right off a jump, but could be a good starter.
I really like Jonah Coleman. What he did
You
at
do?
Arizona, and then he come up to Washington under Jed Fish. That offense
Mhm.
is a little more pro style,
Yeah.
and his ability to help, take things out of backfield, take things to the, in the passing game, between the tackles, outside the tackles, being very successful at two different schools and two different leagues. I like Jonah Coleman. I think that is he never actually, even though he had a couple, he had two offensive linemen at Arizona drafted recently. They didn't have fives. They didn't, he had a great receiver, so he had all the compliments around him. So it wasn't like he was the only guy, on the field, or he was not a team of all stars. He was in a good offense that had some NFL players around it, and he was able to perform at multiple spots. So Jonah Coleman, Washington now, obviously before at Arizona, I would be jumping all over that because there is some intangibles of being in an offense that had a coach who coached in the NFL extensively, Jed Fish. And so having that, there's going to be a little bit layers to have you prepared for combine, for training camp. You're going to be a step ahead. And it's going to allow you to make the impact and be a little bit quicker through some of those rookie drills and play more free. Because we do also see everyone hits that rookie wall. But in training camp, there's also a tough part of you're still overthinking the playbook or you're overthinking the cut or the drills are different. If you have some experience of that ahead of time, which now most of these guys do because they're bringing guys, the coaching ranks are changing, but having more success and more experience in an NFL, coaching mentality, you're taking that cut faster because you feel much more comfortable because you've been doing it for 3 years in practice every single day.
Yeah. The name I personally like quite a bit in my end would be Emmett Johnson out of uh, Nebraska there. The reason I like him a lot is Nebraska media. I always think with a running back, mediocre team. Let me see a guy who just popped off the page on a team that maybe was very, very mid or underachieved across the board. Take a look at Johnson this year. Dude had 1,400 yards, 12 scores, 46 catches for 370. He only had 4 games all year long where he didn't cross the century mark in those football games. I like him a lot because he was probably the primary offensive weapon that, hey, you're a DC coordinator at USC or Michigan State or Maryland. Who's going to be the guy you're going to focus on? You're going to focus on Raiola, the quarterback. You're going to focus on Johnson there. And even with that focus on him, he was still able to perform day in and day out. I like his ability to stay on the field in third down. I think he's got a great role to start off the year as a third down running back. He's got great size at 5'11", 200 there. I'm intrigued. I'm hoping he runs at the combine. He's a 4.5 guy. If he gets close to that 4.4, he could jump himself into a second round pick.
Yeah, he did a great job, and obviously back to the NFL thing. Like, at least his coach might be a fool, but he's been in an NFL system, so at least he can understand what that transition is going to be. Two running backs also in the Big Ten, Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen. I want to see what they do because they've shown flashes in their entire career at Penn State, and they played in a
Mm,
very arm behind your back offense with a quarterback that
yes.
never lived expectations. Receivers were never there. Yes, you had a great tight end in Tyler Warren, but how do these two fit in an offense that maybe has more bounce? I'm just intrigued. Obviously it's draft day. They're going to probably run really well. They're going to, they're built like dudes. So they're going to be fine. But I want to see them on the field on game day. And maybe it's like a breath of fresh air. Like, man, I'm finally playing in a real offense. These receivers, here's the thought, can actually catch the ball and run a route. They actually throw the ball down the
Hmm.
field. It drops the linebacker and the safeties off the line of scrimmage. So those two, in the first 2 years of their career, so rookie season, year two, interesting to watch their transition, their growth. Wherever they get drafted, I think they'll be very successful.
I think you have a great point there. And I think it's almost a bigger picture as in draft as a whole. I think maybe 2, 3 years from now, we're going to look back at the 2024 through 2025 Penn State teams. And I think it's going to be a very telling sign on the coaching job James Franklin did there with how those prospects perform at the NFL. Because, 3 years ago, Fresh, I said this to you. I said, again, I've been on this. If you listen to this podcast long enough, I've thought the world of Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron. I've thought that those two guys were just monster running backs. I thought they were great at what they were able to do. And then they had games where they're phenomenal and they put up some stats, but there's a lot of times where it felt like, it's like a deflated balloon almost. And I love those two. And I'm very interested to see how they translate to the NFL because let's say, hey, if those two guys can play on Sunday, and let's say there's quality starters, guys you'd have on your fantasy team.
Uh-huh.
Guess what? That means James Franklin did a piss poor job at Penn State. Like,
Yeah.
awful job. Again, if they
Well,
don't really show up, okay, maybe we give them a little bit of a pass, but oof,
it's going to be a referendum on James Franklin,
it
and
will be.
he's living off of like I was at Penn State, we were ranked number three, season number two or whatever, and I'm at Virginia Tech now, trying to feed off. He might even know, being honest with himself, like either I screwed the pooch and wasted all this talent.
Mhm,
I had Notre Dame on the ropes in the semifinal 2 years ago, and we choked, and
mhm,
everything completely just dissolved and collapsed. I think he has 2 years at Virginia Tech, to hit quick, because if not, they're gonna be like, so we paid all this money for this guy, and recruiting is not going to be the same. Because after Enter Sandman, College Station, and Blacksburg, Virginia, there's more money going to Penn State. Is the Big Ten has a better media deal. It's gonna be real tough to compete Virginia Tech to Penn State in recruiting and NIL if you aren't winning immediately. Because you've got to win now. And if you don't, people are gonna start really seeing that you're exposed and you're a good coach, but you are not a great coach and you're in over your head. So he's probably hoping his boys at the NFL, and he strikes it high at Virginia Tech this year, but his boys in the NFL deliver very quickly.
yeah. All right, Fresh, let's go over to the wide receivers here. With what we said about the running backs here, where there really is only one first round graded running back. I've seen anywhere from there are three top 12 wide receivers. I've seen there's up to five, maybe if teams go on a run about it, maybe six first round grade wide receivers. What say you? How loaded is the top half talent of wide receivers in this draft?
I would say there's 6 to 7 first rounders.
Wow,
But the
seven?
the funny part is that you can put them all in different orders. Jordan Tyson, and they all are different kind of players as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mikhail Lemon, he's a slot guy. Zachariah Branch is a slot guy. Casey Concepcion can play outside and inside. Since a perimeter guy. Jordan Tyson is a perimeter guy. Chris Bell can play all different spots. Carnell Tate, he could do it all. But they're all interchangeable. They all have different sizes and speeds. And, you can, whatever you need to fit your system is kind of where you have to go for. Tyson had a great year 2 years ago. This past year they kind of got through it, and he kind of like maybe started to focus. But I think he goes to combine his pro days, he's going to show why he was the stud 2 years ago. Because the whole Arizona State team with the Sam Levitt thing, it was a whole mess. Mikhail Lemon went off. He's not a 6'4", prolific, prototype wide receiver. He is the guy who's going to be all over the place, get you in space, and let him use his skills. Austin showed flashes at Washington. Tate has been that guy who's either been that 2 and 3 at Ohio State the past few years, trying to get in that, become the number one. But hey, you're at Ohio State. You're being developed. There's always going to be an amazing player, whether it's Marvin Harrison Jr. there's Jeremiah Smith. I mean, his time is else, Emeka Buka, he has had guys around him. He's just never been able to get that number one spot. And you know what? Maybe that's not a bad thing for him, because he's going to be able to know his role when he gets to the NFL. I'm going to be on a team with a bunch of good players. I know how to operate. Casey Concepcion, the great and NC State, played really, really well this past year at Texas A&M. Has a little
Mm-hmm.
flexibility. He can bring it perimeter, but he can also bring it inside. And also the NFL game has evolved a little bit. And I was sitting around thinking, we were all the old Super Bowls come on, and you got to like the
Mm-hmm.
mid '80s and the early '90s, and you start looking back at those 49er offenses of, you know, it's Taylor and Rice, and it's two receivers on the field, I formation, play action, West Coast offense, 3-step drop, ball gone. They're not running four receivers after. They're not putting trips formations and bubble screens, but you need like a prolific 6'3", 6'2" guy who can, looks the position. And if a guy who looked like a Branch or a Tyreek Hill, they were playing running back or defensive back. Now it's just a different kind of, how can I get guys in space? who has the instinctive ability to sit down in coverage, who can get the ball on a jet sweep, on a bubble screen, on just a break, a jailbreak, who can also run a seam route and be a dual threat receiver. So that's where I look at these. Chris Bell developed over, Coach Brom at Louisville. He has skills that he's been developing over time. So that's why I kind of say like there's 7 guys who, depending on that what you need and how it kind of flows for you, you could see 7 receivers go in the first round. Every year we're kind of like, there's no way we'll get this many, and there's a run. But even below that, I think Bell's probably the Bell and Branch are that floor of the first round. Jermaine Bernard, Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper, Jacoby Lane, Burks, Brazell. There's depth of guys who've had success in different ways. You're not going to see the Megatrons or the Terrell Owen type players as much anymore. You're going to see just guys who can be athletes. So it's a pretty cool instance, and I think we're going to see it because right now there are some teams that have some serious receiver deficiencies in the NFL.
Yeah. All right. So who's your number one out of this group? Because I got
Oh,
mine, and I would think it would shock people if you asked me because I think that a lot of people will look at it and say Tate, Tyson, Lemon are 1, 2, 3. And then there's a little bit of a drop after one of those after those 3. Not saying that the other guys aren't good, but I would put those 3 are probably special. What do you
I
put?
have
Let's put those 3 in order.
Tyson, Lemon, Tate.
Okay.
Is that if you're asking those 3 guys?
Yeah.
That's it right there. Jordan Tyson, Mikhail Lemon, Carnell Tate. And I've changed that 4 times in the past months. The past months,
hmm Does Tyson's injury history scare you at all?
it does. And
Okay.
that's kind of you're even though he's my number one, I've seen him take over games and be the number
hmm
one guy. But the injury part is tough. The size for Mikhail Lemon. If he's my number one pick, I've got to have an offense that's ready to handle a guy in the slot. Right? How can I get this guy in space? Who's going to be a little more like as much as junk we give Lincoln Riley, he
hmm
at least used him the right way.
hmm
He used him and Jacoby Lane the right way this past year at USC. They got guys in space, and we kind of overthink the offense.
hmm
Get the ball to your dudes. I don't care how you do it, just get the ball. I think that's where we see it's Georgia thing. We've given a lot of crap like, oh, why we always throw bubble screens, but then you throw a bubble screen and Zachariah Branch has gone 60 yards for a touchdown. You don't have to have a 6 second drop and then a on the dime, post pattern. As long as the guy's the ball in his hands, he's going to be lethal. And you were talking about, Ty Simpson taking on the shotgun and dropping back 8 steps. If he drops back 8 steps and throws a bubble screen to the, 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage or to the line of scrimmage, and that receiver goes 50 yards, he's going to get a credit for a 50-yard touchdown because he puts the ball in the guy's hands. So sometimes it's how you use the skills as well, because the game has evolved. But Carnell Tate, he has been a major benefit of being trained by Brian Hartline and the other elite receivers of Ohio State, but also having those players on his roster. Last year, you got Smith, Emeka Buka, and him. It's like, I mean, I'm getting this. I'm getting a nickel corner. I'm at get a safety. The other 2 studs out there are getting it. So he's going to have the skills. He's going to have the coaching. He's going to have the training. How does he handle being the pressure of being the number one? And maybe I think he'll handle it, but it's just where's that other, like we always got one factor of like, where's that what if moment? Can Lemon's body take up a beating if he keeps getting pummeled? Can Tyson's body, withstand it? Those are the questions you ask yourself in pro player, the pro offense, the pro scouting department is like, I'm drafting for skills. I'm drafting what's between the ears, injury history. Can they handle it? How's my offense actually combine with them? So it's going to change in the offensive coordinator, head coach, GM kind of situation where those 3 sort of fall out on draft night.
Yeah. For me, okay. I know, like, if people listened to this podcast, they would probably say, like, all right, Haps, you're going to put Tate as the number one, clearly. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to surprise some people right now. If I'm at the combine and you tell me that Jordan Tyson has a clean bill of health, there's no lingering medical issues. Wait, I think, what was it, his knee that he messed up 2 years ago, if I remember
Yeah, he
right?
banged up during that run, but came back and made plays when it had to.
Yeah. And if you tell me that he's got a perfect bill of health going into it, Jordan Tyson is the clear number one in this draft class to me. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the body for it, he's got the catching ability, he's got great hands. I mean, again, Sam Levitt was a decent quarterback, and he had Scatabo in there too to help out, like to take away some of that pressure. But Jordan Tyson won a bunch of one-on-one matchups there. He was a monster in at Arizona State. And again, a lot of people didn't watch him because it was so late in the evening when they're playing. If he's
Mhm.
healthy, Tyson's my number one. No doubt about it. Mikhail Lemon and Carnell Tate are 2, 3 to me. I actually have Tate at number 3 as well. I like Mikhail Lemon for the one thing is I think he's the type of guy that could go I think he could go into the middle, find soft spots and zones, and just kind of annoy the living bejesus out of you because he's just in the right spot, the right time, makes the catch, gets down before he takes a big hit. He's got a little bit of quickness, he's got a little bit of wiggle to him that all of a sudden he's kind of like and again, I think he's maybe a little bit better than this person, but he reminds me a little bit of Jameson Williams at for Detroit. I always kind of get that feeling from him. He's not the number one. He's got St. Brown over there as well. Tate, I'm worried about the hits. I'm worried that 6'3", he's going to try to go across the middle. He's going to try to use that size for his advantage, and he's going to take hits, and he's going to open himself up to some really big injury concerns later on if they don't use him right. You've got to have him in the right offensive system in order for him to be effective. I think he's a great talent. I think that, yes, you can say, yeah, he's drawn number 2 coverages all year long. At the same time, too, he's winning his matchups there. And until they prove me wrong, I'm not betting against an Ohio State receiver going into the NFL after this like run that they've had on it. But again, all of that I could say all those great things about Tate and Lemon. If Tyson's healthy, clear number 1 to me. And then we can have it really to debate at number 2.
Yeah, I mean those three are all first round picks, no matter what. It's just where they fall.
Right.
The fourth, this is just me. I don't think if the Titans are passing on a receiver, they have got to make sure they land whoever at that pick they make that as because they have to get Ward some help. You know, he's drafted offensive lineman the past couple of years. That's great and all, but he still took a lot of sacks. You can have give me all the young receivers on that team, all those rookies, but they need a superstar. And Calvin Ridley is not the superstar. He's stealing money from the Titans. So the Titans, the pressure is on right now to deliver and get that pick right, but get him some playmakers. So if Tyson's your guy, I don't care who it is, but if you feel that connection when they come in that room, and I highly recommend getting Cam Ward's opinion because if Cam Ward's going to like that guy and see what he can relate to him, and you know that they can somehow talk, their agents will somehow figure out a way to have a
Mhm.
side conversation. Which one is he on the page with the most? You don't go out there and just draft him this guy and you kind of make them together because if Ward doesn't like him and he doesn't like Ward, I don't care what you're not going to force that relationship to be successful. The Titans are in a spot where you've got to develop and get Cam Ward the tools and make sure he's comfortable with that receiver. Look at Joe Burrow. They went out and they're like, we're
Mhm.
going to go get Jamar Chase the year after. And we got T. Higgins the year like and when he got drafted, like we were getting guys who he has on the same page with, he has a relationship with, and they're a good spot, and they trust each other. That's what you want. Whichever one of those are three, the Titans have got to make sure they are fully locked in. Everybody in that building is in agreement that this receiver is the right guy, and the receiver is also like, yeah, this is who I want to be with. I'm not just saying it like, oh, I want to get drafted. I truly mean it. Like, me and Cam are on the same page.
You got a late round guy you're looking at saying, 5th round comes around. I really like this guy if he's there.
There's a guy named played Kentucky, Dane Key. He was a solid little player there for Kentucky for a few years. I think he actually
Good
finished last
pull.
year at Nebraska.
Yep.
He will be. He's that guy. He could be that fifth receiver. He's going to play special teams. He is going to be a gamer. He's going to be tough. I really think that he's that fifth round kind of player who, when you're like, man, that dude's on the squad, or he's making some catches, or he's making plays on special teams. Keep an eye out for him because I'll tell you right now, like Mark
Love
Stoops
that pull.
at Kentucky, he might not have. He might have been too old school, but he brought dudes into Kentucky where we're going to play football.
Mhm.
Maybe they were a little too physical and they just a little too bravado, but he went and got guys and developed them. I like Dane Key as a late round pick.
Man, that's a great pull there, Fresh. I do like Dane Key a lot over there as well. My guy, I'm gonna say late round guy out of TCU, Eric McAllister. 6'3", leading receiver for the Horned Frogs. People missed this one because TCU wasn't dominant in the Big 12, but they were a solid football team Josh Hoover, very good quarterback. People know that kid's name going into the 26th season because he's going to be over at Indiana. Eric McC I don't know if Hoover leaves TCU, if Eric McAllister's still at TCU this year and not going to the NFL draft. If I'm picking in the fifth, and I'm talking, this guy's available to me fifth and sixth round. I like him a lot. Like this guy a lot.
When you kind of look at that offense, they have guys. They put some guys in the league.
Yeah,
Best last year goes to the Raiders. They even they got smacked by Georgia. They had that year after that. They're like the deer in the headlights. They've recovered and they've gotten themselves they're not going to play for national championship. They've gotten them back, like their feet under them again. Like, all right, we can actually play football. Hoover's been a solid example of that, and receivers in that team. For some of the Dykes in the purple frogs, the horned frogs, doing pretty well. Like good pull there.
yeah. All right, Fresh. Let's keep to the other skill position real quick before we kind of sign off for this one. Let's talk tight ends here for a minute. The name everyone's going to know, Eli out of Vanderbilt there. Was recruited as a quarterback and leaving as a tight end there. Probably doing what Tebow should have done going into the NFL. You like any of these tight ends? Any of them first round grade in your opinion? Sadiq, everyone likes.
I like Sadiq as maybe like a high second round. I don't think these guys are gonna be first round picks because you look at like Stowers and Sadiq. They're not gonna be jump off the page. They're not Brock Bowers, Kyle Pitts. They're not Tony Gonzalez's of the world. Like they're good, but I'm like you put your entire franchise like on your top 32 picks. I don't think I'm one of the top 32 players for the draft. If we were going back to the early 2000s and like this was Brett Favre and Bubba Franks is sitting there, all right, and the offense is different. Bubba Franks time at picking him, but Sadiq, Stowers, Claire, injuries, Jolly, Oscar Delp, Tanner Coles, Daquan Wright. A lot of these guys are very, very similar. And one thing I'll say about Stowers that does make him, they had a great running game. They had a very good offensive line. Your quarterback ran all over the place where Stowers could sit down. And also, they had to be respectful of his game. I could see him being very similar to Travis Kelce, but then Sadiq has that athletic ability. You can split in the slot. You can also, have him off the line. There's abilities there, but at a first round grade, I would say no.
Yeah. It just makes me nervous that Sadiq with Oregon, he had 1 year where he has 50 catches and 8 scores. He kind of was that red zone target for them. We
This is that weird spot where you look
right.
at project as opposed to college stats. And you try to
Yeah.
find like where's that happy medium somewhere in between.
Yeah, and the hard part I have with Sadiq is, what was it, Drake May? They're like, oh, he's only a 1 year starter at North Carolina, and we make these like discounts of guys being 1 year starters at every other position, but like here, this guy, and again, I haven't seen very many mock drafts where this guy is the number one. He's getting a first round pick, but at the scouting sites you take a look at, he is the only guy that most scouting sites are giving a first round grade for. I don't know. I just don't see it. I think that there might be some value later on in the draft. Like if you guys want to take some flyers on some guys, there's Trigg out of Baylor. I like him as a third round pick. But I take a look at like Harold Fannin Jr. this past year for the Browns. One of probably the best rookie tight end of this draft class. And again, he's with the Browns, so someone's got to catch the damn football. But maybe like a guy like Gillenborg out of Wyoming could be like the best tight end out of this group because tight end's one of those weird positions that, yeah, you might have like a stud, like you said, Bowers or more a couple years ago out of Notre Dame. Hey, those guys weren't there this year.
And you can look at the offense now. As much as we talk about like putting 4 or 5 receivers in the field, Sean McVay and Michael and Kyle Shanahan's offense, they have 2, 3 tight ends on the field. They're running 12 and 13 personnel a lot. And they're not just there as blockers; they're involved in the play action passing game and dumping out. We were talking about the Rams versus the Seahawks, and we were pulling the second, third, and fourth tight end from the Rams roster as legit players that are involved. So that's what expands on the offense. Like the Packers, Tucker Kraft goes down, the entire Packers offense basically fell apart. And you would think, well, the tight end, he was the second tight end drafted by the Packers. Musgrave was okay. Musgrave gets hurt at times. You're playing your third, your fourth, and your fifth tight end. So these guys are not just like how that, you're not going to be able to starter, but they're in that 2 or that 3, or they're that practice squad guy because you never know what's going to happen. And then back to the running back situation. Can these guys, are they going to be gamers? Are they going to play special teams? Are they going to help punt, punt, field goal protect? Are they going to be help block and, help sell the play action, be involved in that short yards? Because if you can get 3 to 4 yards here and there and help just keep moving the chains, you don't have to have the 20-yard passes. If we both play in our video game league, that's great. 3 yards is not worth it, but in the NFL, 3 yards is gold. And some of these tight ends, you're going to find ways like, I'm going to be a short yards guy. I'm going to be involved in that 12 and 13
Mhm.
personnel. And, if you're shooting up on Sunday, you're in the NFL, you have to be able to be able to contribute. It's not like college where you dress, 80 for a road game or for a road conference game or, 100 at home. And you have just third and fourth and fifth string guys who can pull off the sideline. In the NFL, if you're getting dressed, it means you're in the game plan, you're going to have to be involved. And if you can show that you can be trusted in multiple facets, that's what makes you valuable. And these tight ends, if you're smart and if you're physical, they can find a home for you.
Right. The guy I'm going to pull, and I'm going to say late round guy for me that I'm intrigued by. And again, I'm going to talk about one of the Georgia kids, Oscar Delp. I think a late round guy because he may, and again, we're going to think he's probably going to run at the combine because he's a late round pick, but he is going to give Sadiq and Stowers and all of those guys a run for the money. The dude does have 4.5 speed. He is a 4.5 speed. The knock I've seen on him that he's going to want to prove is going to be the bench press. Does he have the elite upper body strength where you can go, okay, yeah, we can split you out and make you a 6'5" target over in the middle, but are we able to keep you on the field for the run blocking?
And you watch some film. He actually has had some solid run blocking. He's been the number one tight end at Georgia for a
Right.
while. So, it's for him, being consistent because there's some times where like he'll drop a pass, but he'll make 2 crazy catches. So it's just
Hmm.
keeping that mindset, and being able to play within the offense. But you have an athlete. I like Jaquan Wright at Ole Miss.
Hmm.
I mean, you watch him play last year. The guy is some massive size over the middle of the field, and you have to look at matchups. Now, are they get to the safety on him, a linebacker? Who's going to be able to cover this guy? Can he play action? Can you give me a little just a physical and can you bring his size to like, oh, I got to cover that guy? And right there, that becomes a trigger point for the defense or somebody keying him. Is this guy we've got to pay attention to? He him not catching the ball might actually help the offense because you're keying on him the entire time. But him at Ole Miss had some very successful games, and you got his size and speed. It helps cover up for some stuff.
Yeah. You know, a player I really like that I think that is a tight end that people may be sleeping on, and I'm gonna probably mess up his name, is Tanner Kozal. Kozal, hopefully I'm saying that right. 6'6" kid. Started his career at Ball State. Okay. And as a true freshman playing in Maction there, 35 catches, 7 touchdowns there. For 3 years, he's one of the better receiving options for Ball State. Hits the portal, goes to Houston and is one of the leading receivers for the Cougars this year. The thing that impressed me with him is the fact that he wasn't just a Maction standout. Like, okay, we see guys, they put up great stats in the MAC, and you're like, all right, great. We all love Maction. We all love Tuesday nights with raccoons. It's phenomenal. Roll the keg in the parking lot. We played keg bowling. Great. It's the Maction. Crazy things happen. But then to see him transfer into the Big 12 and then not just be like a guy that went back and forth, like played a little bit, contributed a little bit, but no, dude was a key contributor in the Big 12 for Houston, and Houston had a really great year, flew under the radar. I'm very intrigued to see where he winds up at.
Well, and I think a lot of this tight end group, you might not see 3, 4, 5, 6. We might have 9 drafted, but you might have 15 undrafted free agents making, practice squads or squads everywhere else. And with the practice squads expanding in the past few years, the opportunities and the dreams of playing are much more prevalent. And as we all know, injuries happen. For the course of the season, what your 53 is going into week 1 is not going to be your 53 in week 18. If you can show you can play, showing your potential, paying attention, giving it, your skills and everything else will bide your time. So we look at the draft. We have to also change our mindset. It's not the 7 rounds. It's the 7 rounds, the undrafted free
Hmm.
agents, getting yourself in the right situation to be either on that roster, on that practice squad, or be someone's like, all right, they are in that fringe. They're going to be that street free agent going between practice squad and practice squad, but it means you've at least impressed somebody you have potential. So take every rep um, as gold because you never know if it's actually going to set the time up and injuries happen. You step in there and take advantage of it. These guys, that's how it separates from because you're not going to see like John Michael Gillenborg or Nate Borkircher aren't going to be day one players, day two players. They might be starting, in the NFL week 17 because of injuries or whatnot. So it's just check when you watch the combine, you see the guys running their 40s, and you go back and watch all the pre-draft stuff. Watch all the guys because I can guarantee you, if you start going back to previous years, you're like, well, it's not one of the top players. I'm going to ignore him. And you start seeing like, oh, that guy actually became a stud. That guy was a big time player. Yeah. Um, look at all the big time NFL tight ends right now. Travis Kelce was not a high draft pick. Not at all. A lot of tight ends right now in the league, they were not high draft picks. They were guys who were third, fourth, fifth round picks who they got on that regime and they showed their skills.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, before we sign off, let's do something fun here for you. Give me the top 3 NFL needy running back teams. Which 3 teams do you need that need a running back the most? Who would you say?
In my opinion, Saints and Chiefs are the top two. Third one, I'm gonna say the Cardinals.
Okay.
They had some injuries last year with Connor getting older. I think there's an opportunity there.
Okay. So once you pick a player, you can't pick them twice. The Saints, best pick for the Saints for running back would be who?
Jeremiah Love.
Chiefs, best pick for them running back.
Jonah Coleman.
In the first still?
I would take that probably second round pick for the Chiefs.
All right.
The
Cardinals, who's the best pick for them?
If Jadarian Price was there, I'd run it up there and grab him. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say Emmett Johnson because with LaFleur taking over, they're going to have much more of a 12, 13 personnel power running game in their arsenal now, and not Murray running around anymore.
Okay. All right. Same question. Top 3 needy teams for a wide receiver.
Well, Titans are number 1. Cowboys. Well, the Cowboys were when they were still in the whole George Pickens thing. Now they put the franchise tag. I think they solved that. Jets would be number 2.
And the Browns.
Well, the Browns need everything, so that really doesn't help.
Right.
Actually, the Steelers become that Steelers.
Okay. All right. So you said the Jets,
Titans, and Steelers.
All right. Titans. Who are they taking?
Tyson
at number 4. All right. So, and you wanted to go Jets are number at 2. I don't know if they're taking a wide receiver at 2.
No, but at 16 they have another pick. I think Mikhail Lemon at 16 would be good.
Okay. And then the last one were the Steelers. Steelers at 21. Did you like a pick there? Or would you wait till second?
I would think right now they've got to deliver for Aaron Rodgers. They've got to also get useful at that receiver spot. Because that receiver room, it needs some help. They can't, Aaron Rodgers can't keep bringing back tackle cast-offs from 20 years ago to play receiver for him. So I would take, if Carnell Tate is there at 21, take him. If Denzel Boston was there at 21, take him. Casey Concepcion was there at 21, take him. But they've got to find a way. They have not really addressed that position in depth from a draft perspective. Well, the quarterback spot, but if Rodgers comes back, you're taking a receiver there to get as many weapons for one last hurrah. There in Steeltown.
I think Concepcion scares the living bejesus out of me as a Browns fan. If Concepcion is at Pittsburgh with his explosive playmaking ability, I am downright terrified.
It's all about the fit, like how they want to do it. You kind of look at the offense. If Concepcion was there, he can play in all 3 different spots. He'll help give that offense a little bit more of a layered feel. You could also maybe see a Zachariah Branch, who's that slot receiver there, because Aaron Rodgers, he'll dump it off. He'll put guys in space. He's evolved. It's also Mike McCarthy. You got to look at Mike McCarthy's offense. But they're going to need 2 receivers on the outside. And Concepcion gives them as much flexibility as possible to go with DK.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Hey, that was a fun one there, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button up there. Hit the notification bell because we're going to get you ready for the NFL draft. We got full first-round mock draft coming up here in a few weeks. You're not going to want to miss that. So hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. And make sure you're checking out Fresh's Power Alley podcast there. It is spring training. There are games going on. My Guardians were off to a hot start prior to losing to the Dodgers in spring ball. I still can't name 4 players on the team yet, but hopefully I'll get there until they sign Roger Dorn.
Check, yeah, quick. Taylor's back, I think. Willie Mays Hayes is also
I'll
back.
take them all.
This guy named like that. They brought up a couple of guys from the California Penal League.
How'd you
So
get
yeah,
there? Stole a car.
hey, you know what? They're looking pretty good. You know, they're not too bleeping bad, according to the movie. But they'll be okay. But yeah, spring training's full of gear. World Baseball Classic's coming. We got the mock draft coming. You also get a lot of draft content on spinablesports.com. So hit it up any way possible. Twitter/X at Spinable Sports, at IR Confidence Pod, at Power LA Pod. Spread the word. And of course, the main thing is the Spinable Sports YouTube channel. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Hope you enjoy our shorts and our regular videos, and spread the word. Keep build momentum. That's all we got to do. I'm really excited about the live mock draft coming here in a few weeks.
Mhm.
And until then, everyone, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.